Hi everyone, welcome to this week's SmartGlamour video. I am shooting on my computer in the living room this time instead of in my studio because my studio is a little bit of a mess at the moment, so I apologize. This week's video is going to be all about ethical fashion, the difference between ethical fashion and unethical fashion, sweatshop made fashion, and why shopping ethically is important, how you can do it, and all of the above. So I have a lot of problems with the fashion industry. I'm not going to get into all of them, but when it comes to ethical fashion conversation, one of my biggest problems with the fashion industry, especially the fast fashion industry, is that it is designed to make you feel out of trend every week. Most people know, general knowledge, that there are multiple seasons in fashion. There's fall, winter, there's spring, summer. Then there's also smaller seasons like resort and bridal and things like that. But stores like H&M actually create 52 seasons, which is one for every single week. They've gone on record multiple times to say that every week when you go into H&M, there are new products there. And they use that as a marketing tool to say, oh, it's so wonderful. Every time you go there, there's new things. Which, yes, is true. But the point of that is to make people constantly feel like they are missing out if they don't continue to shop, and to make you feel like something you bought a month ago is no longer in style. The next thing that I want to touch on are discounts and huge sales. And there's stores that are specifically designed around this idea. Stores like TJ Maxx and Marshalls, etc., where it's marketed to make you think that you're buying designer clothing at a crazy discount. The thought behind those stores and the way that they're marketed is that it's the actual designer clothing, and maybe they just bought too much or it didn't sell as well or something like that. But that's actually not the case in most of the chains that sell that way. They actually make deals with the designers to make lower quality clothing at a cheaper price, so then they can sell it at a cheaper price, and people will buy it thinking that they're buying the same amazing designer clothing that people spend thousands of dollars for, but they're getting it for $10. That's not the case. And at the end of the day, fast fashion ends up costing you more because you're either throwing it out because it's trendy and you don't want to wear it anymore, or it quite frankly is falling apart. Everything from shoes to hoodies, things that we wear a lot. When you buy them from fast fashion stores and you attempt to wear them a lot, as you intend to do, they completely fall apart. And so a way to think about it is thinking about cost per wear. So if you are going to buy an everyday black shoe that you want to wear a lot, and you spend $30 on that shoe, you're only going to be able to wear it so many times before you need to go back and buy a new pair. Whereas if you were to buy an $100 shoe or $150 shoe, which there are ethical shoes at those prices, it's not going to fall apart as quickly, and you're actually paying less for every time you wear it than you would be if you're buying the fast fashion version. So aside from cost per wear and trendiness and all of that, the biggest thing that ties into unethical fashion is, of course, sweatshops. And a sweatshop is any factory that falls short of 2 labor laws or more. And not all sweatshops are overseas. The Department of Labor has indicated that 50% of garment factories in the United States violate 2 or more labor laws, which makes them sweatshops. All the more reason for us to really crack down and signify the importance of labor laws and following them. And a great way to make it known that this is something that's important to you is to spend your money at places that don't use sweatshops. Money talks. And as I mentioned earlier about clothing that is designed to fall apart, the goal of fast fashion mass market places like H&M and Forever 21, etc., is to only mark their clothing up a small amount, but then sell oceans of it. And the way that you sell oceans of things are, as I mentioned, making customers feel like they're no longer trendy and they need new things, and also by creating things that aren't high quality and you have to throw them out. And the average American throws away over 68 pounds of textiles per year. That's not donating, that's throwing away. And that's really dangerous and harmful for the environment. And one of the worst things, in my opinion, about sweatshops is their use of child labor. It's been stated that 250 million children ages 5 to 14 are forced to work in sweatshops in developing countries. In Bangladesh alone, approximately 1.3 million children are working in factories full-time to help support their families. If these factories doubled the salaries of their workers, our retail price of our goods would only go up 1.8%. And I've talked about this on SmartGlamour before, that a lot of designers mark their prices up by 800%. And that's not just indie boutiques. Fast fashion retailers mark up their prices even crazier. It's been reported that a shirt sold in the US that are around $60 can cost less than 10 cents in labor overseas. And as I've mentioned in past SmartGlamour videos, 97% of the clothes that we wear in the United States are made overseas. So not only is all of this bad for the environment and human rights and developing countries, but fast fashion's low quality is also changing the way that we think about our clothing. It changes the way that we value or don't value our clothing and how it's made and who's making it. The low prices and the fast trends and turnaround make it seem like clothing is just something that we can throw away, that we shouldn't be concerned with. We don't place value in our clothing. And as a lot of think pieces I've written about before, we also don't place very high value on ourselves, specifically on our bodies. You know, we think, oh, I'll buy nicer clothes when I get to my goal size, or I'll take care of myself when this happens. And so we buy cheap clothes, and we buy clothes that are going to fall apart because we aren't valuing ourselves as we are right now. And I'd also ask you to think about why we're okay with paying expensive prices on certain things, but not on clothes. You know, a lot of people get really excited about walking into Forever 21 and spending $5 on a shirt, but those same people will also spend $5 on a coffee from Starbucks. A coffee that you're going to drink and is gone in a minute, but a shirt that you should technically want to wear more than once. So yes, ethical fashion does cost more than fashion made in sweatshops. But there are a lot of brands where it is not astronomically priced. Obviously, SmartGlamour being one of them. I try to be incredibly clear and transparent with my pricing. While indie boutiques mark up 800%, SmartGlamour only marks up to around 250 to 300%. There are other ethical brands that mark up the same way. And you're going to have to change the way that you think about shopping and that you think about fashion. It's not going to be as instantaneous. You're not going to, be able to get something the next day in most cases. But it can be done. And it's about small steps. I don't expect anyone to clear out their entire closet and then go out and spend tons and tons and tons of money on an ethical wardrobe to replace it. Start small. Start with one thing. Think about the next thing that you want to buy that you really want to keep for a long time, whether that's like the perfect wrap dress or a coat or a great pair of shoes or your underwear, your bras, things that you're going to wear a lot. Buy them ethically. It makes more sense monetarily. It makes more sense because they're actually going to last. And when you're shopping ethical clothing, you're more often than not shopping from a small business, which is really positively affecting that person's life instead of giving your money to a giant corporation. Shopping small means you get better quality. It means that you get better customer service. It means that you are supporting someone who's most likely also giving back to other small businesses and their community around them. And I would be remiss to not mention in this video that unfortunately, as we know, the fashion world in general really fails plus size women, and that is not any different in ethical fashion world. Most ethical fashion brands, just like most regular fashion brands, don't make plus size clothing, and that's awful. There are tons of lists online for ethical clothing for plus size women, and SmartGlamour is on pretty much every single one of them. And I didn't try to reach out for any of that press. It's just that small of a world that when you try to Google plus size ethical clothing, SmartGlamour comes up, which is wonderful. And I hope that you do shop with us. But I hope that other brands decide to catch on, obviously in the mainstream fashion world, but also, most importantly, in the ethical fashion world. And for all of my straight size shoppers who believe that plus size women should have the same access to clothing as you, the way that you can do something about that is by only buying your clothes from companies that also make plus size clothing. When I buy clothes, instead of making them myself, so like underwear or activewear, although I've started to make my own of those as well, I will only buy things from companies that also cater to plus size women. Your money matters. Where you spend it matters. We only have one world, and the world is worth being taken care of, and so are we. I hope you enjoyed this week's SmartGlamour video. If you have any more questions about ethical fashion, please leave them in the comments below. I'm also going to link to a bunch of sources where I got all of these facts, so you can go through and read them. You can read where they were sourced from, and you can also read a ton more. I'm also, again, going to recommend watching the documentary on Netflix called The True Cost, which is all about sweatshops and fashion and fast fashion and how it affects the environment. As always, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff so more and more people can watch these videos. And if you have anything that you'd like me to talk about in future videos, please leave it in the comments below. Have a great week.